My wife Julia posted another picture from Spain at 11:30 on a Tuesday night. I know because I was sitting in our Seattle condo, eating leftover Chinese takeout, and watching her Instagram story refresh with images of sangria, sunset beaches, and her arm draped around Eric Dalton like they were newlyweds on their honeymoon. The thing about betrayal is that it doesn't hit you like a freight train. It seeps in slowly, like water, through a crack in your foundation, until one day you wake up and realize your entire house is rotting from the inside out. "Having the best time with my oldest friend," she captioned the latest photo, complete with heart eye emojis and a geotag from some expensive resort in Ibiza. Eric's smug face grinned back at me through the screen, his embassy credentials probably paying for half that trip. I'm Mason Reed, 38 years old, and until about 5 minutes ago, I thought I had a decent marriage. I work as a project manager for a tech company downtown, pull in a solid six-figure salary, and I've spent the last 4 years thinking my wife Julia was building a life with me. Apparently, she was building something else entirely. My phone buzzed with a text from my best friend Bryce. "Dude, you seeing this Instagram stuff? What the heck is Julia doing?" I stared at the screen, my chopsticks suspended halfway to my mouth. Julia had tagged me in the photo. Not just tagged me, she'd made sure everyone in our social circle would see it. Our neighbors, my coworkers, her marketing executive friends, everyone. The comments were already rolling in. "So cute! When did you guys get to Spain? Wait, isn't that Eric from college? Julia, is Mason there too? I don't see him in any pics." I set down my food and really looked at the photos for the first time. Julia's hand on Eric's chest, his arm around her waist, the way she was looking at him in the sunset shots, like he was the only person in the world. My wife of 4 years was in Spain with her ex-boyfriend, posting about it on social media, and apparently everyone I knew was going to find out before I did. I called her, straight to voicemail. I called again. Same thing. By the third call, I was pacing around our living room, looking at all the carefully curated decorations Julia had chosen, the throw pillows that cost more than my monthly car payment, the abstract art she'd insisted we needed for the walls, the wedding photos, where we both looked so incredibly happy. My phone rang. Julia. "Mason, baby, I was just about to call you." "Were you now?" My voice came out flat, controlled. "Interesting timing. What do you mean?" She sounded genuinely confused, but Julia had always been a good actress. "I've been having such an amazing time. Eric surprised me with this incredible resort, and the weather has been perfect, and..." "Eric surprised you?" "Well, yes. You remember Eric from college? He works at the embassy now. And when I mentioned I needed a vacation, he said he had connections and could get us a great deal. I thought I told you about this trip. You told me you were going to a marketing conference in Portland." Silence on the other end, then, "Oh, right, well, plans changed. It was all very last minute. Eric had these connections, and I thought, why not? You've been so busy with work lately, and I didn't want to bother you with all the details. So instead of bothering me with details, you decided to bother me with Instagram posts of you and your ex-boyfriend looking like you're on your honeymoon." "Mason, don't be ridiculous. Eric and I are just friends. We've been friends for years, you know that." "Friends don't usually share hotel rooms, Julia." Another pause. "How do you know we're sharing a room?" "Because you posted a picture of your breakfast on a balcony, and there's one bed visible in the background. Also, Eric's passport is sitting on the nightstand next to your jewelry." I could hear her scrambling now, probably trying to delete photos. "Mason, you're being paranoid. Eric got us adjoining rooms, but his had a better view, so we've been hanging out there. That's all. Adjoining rooms that you're paying for with our joint credit card. How did you..." "I get alerts, Julia. Every transaction. The resort, the flights, the dinners, the couple's massage you booked yesterday, all on our card." The line went quiet, except for some background noise. Music, people talking, the sound of someone having fun while their spouse sat at home eating cold lo mein. "Mason, I can explain everything when I get back. This isn't what it looks like." "When are you getting back?" "Sunday. My flight lands at..." "No, it doesn't." "What?" "I canceled your return flight, and Eric's. I also froze our joint accounts and canceled all the credit cards about 20 minutes ago. Hope you brought cash." I could hear her sharp intake of breath. "You can't do that. Mason, that's insane. How am I supposed to get home?" "I'm sure Eric will figure something out. He works for the embassy, right?" I bet they have protocols for this kind of thing. Mason, please, you're being crazy. I haven't done anything wrong. Then why are you whispering? She wasn't whispering anymore. She was practically shouting. Because you're being unreasonable. I'm trying to have a conversation with you, and you're acting like some kind of jealous psychopath. Julia, let me ask you something. In all the photos you've posted from this trip, how many include me? How many even mention me? That's not 0. The answer is 0. But you tagged me in a photo of you and Eric looking like you're about to recreate the pottery scene from Ghost. So either you're completely oblivious to how this looks, or you wanted everyone to see it. I don't know what you want me to say. I want you to say goodbye, Julia, because I'm done. I hung up and immediately blocked her number. Then I sat back down with my cold Chinese food and started making a list. The next morning, I woke up to 17 missed calls from Julia and a text from an unknown international number. Mason, this is Eric. We need to talk. Julia's hysterical, and you've put us in a very difficult situation. I'm going to call you at 9 a.m. your time. I screenshot the text and saved it to a folder I'd created called Evidence. At exactly 9 o'clock, my phone rang. Mason Reed. Mason, this is Eric Dalton. I think we need to clear the air here. Eric's voice was smooth, confident, with just a hint of an accent he'd probably picked up during his years working overseas. The kind of voice that was used to getting what it wanted. Do we now? Look, I understand you're upset, but you've created an international incident here. Julia is stranded in a foreign country with no access to funds, and frankly, your behavior is borderline controlling. Controlling. I repeated the word slowly. Interesting choice of words, Eric. What would you call it? You've trapped your wife in Spain without any means of getting home. She's terrified. She's terrified, or you're inconvenienced. This isn't about me, Mason. This is about Julia. She's your wife, for God's sake. My wife who's sharing a hotel room with her ex-boyfriend and posting about it on social media? Yeah, I'm real concerned about her welfare right now. We're not sharing a room. Julia explained this to you. Eric, I've seen the photos. I've seen the credit card statements. I've seen the couple's massage appointment. I've also seen the reservation confirmation email that Julia forwarded to her personal account. You know, the one that shows a 1-room, 1 king bed, registered under both your names. Silence. Here's what's going to happen, Eric. You're going to use your embassy connections to get Julia home, because that's apparently what you do. You solve problems for people, and then you're going to stay the heck away from my wife. Mason, you don't understand the position you've put me in. Using official channels for personal matters is complicated. There are protocols, paperwork, questions that get asked. Sounds like a you problem. It's going to become a you problem if you don't restore Julia's access to funds immediately. Is that a threat, Eric? It's a reality. Julia is an American citizen stranded abroad because of your actions. The embassy takes that seriously. The embassy takes it seriously when American citizens are stranded due to criminal activity or natural disasters. I don't think husband-discovered wife's affair falls under their jurisdiction. You're making a mistake, Mason. The only mistake I made was trusting my wife, but I'm done making that one. I hung up and immediately called my sister Lila, who happened to be one of the sharpest divorce attorneys in Seattle. Lila Reed speaking. Lila, it's Mason. I need a lawyer. What did you do? Why do you assume I did something? Because you sound like you're either about to commit a crime or you already have. Please tell me you didn't end Julia. Julia's in Spain with her ex-boyfriend. I found out last night. I may have stranded them there by freezing our accounts. Oh, Mason, you beautiful, stupid man. Get to my office. Now. An hour later, I was sitting in Lila's downtown law office, watching her flip through printed screenshots of Julia's Instagram posts. This is bad, Mason. Bad how? Bad as in your wife is either completely stupid or she wanted you to find out. Nobody posts this kind of stuff accidentally. That's what I thought. The question is why? Why would she want you to know? Maybe she wants a divorce, but doesn't want to be the one to ask for it. Or maybe she wants to provoke you into doing something stupid that she can use against you later. Lila leaned back in her chair. Tell me about Eric. College boyfriend. They dated for like 2 years before she met me. He works for the State Department, stationed in Madrid. Supposedly they've been friends this whole time. Supposedly. I never liked him. Too smooth, too confident. The kind of guy who thinks his charm can get him out of any situation. Can it? We're about to find out. Lila pulled out a legal pad and started writing. Okay, here's what we're going to do. First, we're going to document everything. Every photo, every transaction, every communication. Second, we're going to restore Julia's access to funds, but only enough to get home. We don't want to give her ammunition for a mistreatment claim. She already has ammunition. Eric called it controlling this morning. Of course he did. That's their play. You're the overbearing, controlling husband who trapped his innocent wife abroad. Julia comes home traumatized, files for divorce, and takes half of everything plus alimony. Can she do that? If she can prove a pattern of controlling behavior, maybe. But Mason, she made one crucial mistake. What's that? She documented everything herself. Every photo, every post, every check-in. She's created a timeline of her own affair. No judge is going to have sympathy for a cheating wife who flaunted it on social media. My phone buzzed with a text from Bryce. Dude, you need to see this. Check Julia's Instagram. I opened the app and felt my stomach drop. Julia had posted a new story, a video of herself crying, makeup smeared, talking about being stranded and scared and how she just wants to come home to her husband. Lila, look at this. She watched the video twice, then smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. She's good. I'll give her that. But she just made another mistake. How? Look at the background. That's not a hotel room. That's a private residence. Expensive furniture, personal photos on the shelves, men's clothing visible in the background. She's not stranded at some resort, Mason. She's at Eric's place. His place? Embassy employees get housing allowances. Eric probably has an apartment or a house in Madrid. Julia isn't some helpless victim trapped in a foreign country. She's shacked up with her boyfriend, playing the victim for social media. I stared at the video again. Lila was right. In the background, I could see a bookshelf with what looked like family photos, and there was definitely a man's jacket hanging on a chair. So what do? We let her dig her own grave. Keep documenting everything. Don't respond to any of her posts or messages. Let her tell her story, and we'll let the evidence tell ours. And if Eric tries to use his embassy connections against me, then we'll remind him that using official government resources for personal matters is a federal crime. I doubt he wants that kind of attention from his superiors. I left Lila's office feeling better than I had since this whole mess started. For the first time in years, I felt like I had a plan. But as I was walking to my car, my phone rang. Unknown number. Mason Reed? Mr. Reed, this is Detective Lopez with Seattle PD. We need to talk. Detective Lopez was waiting for me in the parking lot of my condo building, standing next to a patrol car and looking at the side of my building with professional interest. Mr. Reed? That's me. We got a call about vandalism. Looks like someone had some strong feelings about you. I followed her gaze and felt my blood pressure spike. Someone had spray painted cheater, loser, and pay up across the brick wall next to the building entrance, along with some creative suggestions about what I could do with myself. Any idea who might have done this? I'm getting divorced, Detective. Could be anyone. Your neighbors seem to think it's related to some social media drama involving your wife. I looked around and saw Mrs. Park from 3B standing on her balcony, not even pretending not to eavesdrop. The Jenkins from the first floor were hovering near the mailboxes, and I could see at least 3 other neighbors finding excuses to be outside. My wife is currently in Spain with her ex-boyfriend. She's been posting about it on Instagram. I found out yesterday. And you think someone did this because they're, taking sides? Detective, I have no idea. But I can tell you, I didn't spray paint my own building. Where were you last night between midnight and 6 a.m.? At home. Alone. Probably have Netflix viewing history if you need proof. Detective Lopez made some notes. We'll check security cameras, see if we can identify who did this. In the meantime, you might want to consider staying somewhere else for a few days. Domestic situations can escalate quickly. I'm not going anywhere. This is my home. Your choice. But Mr. Reed, if you're planning any kind of retaliation against your wife or her friend, don't. It won't end well for you. After she left, I spent 2 hours helping the building maintenance crew pressure wash the graffiti off the wall while my neighbors whispered and pointed. Mrs. Park actually took pictures. By the time I got back to my apartment, I had 3 voicemails from Julia, 2 from Eric, and 1 from a number I didn't recognize. I started with the unknown number. Mason, this is Kendra, Julia's friend. We need to talk. There are things you don't know, and Julia's Well, she's not telling you the truth about everything. Now, call me back. Kendra Williams. Julia's best friend since college, maid of honor at our wedding, the person who probably knew more about my wife's secrets than anyone else in the world. I called her back. Kendra, it's Mason. Oh, thank God. Mason, I am so sorry. I had no idea Julia was going to do this. Do what exactly? Post those pictures. Make it so public. I knew she was going to Spain with Eric, but I thought she was going to tell you. You knew? Mason, Julia's been talking about Eric for months, ever since he got transferred back to Madrid. She said they'd been emailing, that he was helping her with some marketing project that involved Spain. What kind of project? I don't know. Something about international markets, expanding her company's presence in Europe. She showed me some emails, but they seemed personal. Too personal for work. How personal? Mason, I don't want to be the one to tell you this. Kendra, someone spray-painted cheater on my building last night. I think we're past worrying about my feelings. Julia's been planning this for weeks, maybe months. She had me help her pick out clothes for the trip, lingerie, the works. She said it was her chance to remember who she used to be before she married you. I sat down heavily on my couch. She said that? Mason, I told her she was making a mistake. I told her you were a good guy and she was going to ruin everything, but she said you'd gotten boring, that you never surprised her anymore, never made her feel special. So she decided to go to Spain with her ex-boyfriend and broadcast it to the world. I think she wanted you to fight for her. Like, she wanted you to see the posts and get jealous and fly to Spain and make some grand romantic gesture. Instead, I froze her credit cards. Yeah, she called me crying about that. But Mason, there's something else, something that's going to make you really angry. More angry than I already am. The graffiti on your building? Julia hired someone to do that. The phone went quiet except for the sound of my own breathing. What? She found some kid on social media, paid him $500 to spray paint your building. She thought it would make you look bad, like you had enemies or something. She wanted people to think you were the problem. Do you have proof of this? Screenshots of their messages, Venmo payment records. She used her personal account, not the joint one you froze. Can you send those to me? Already did. Check your email. I opened my laptop and found an email from Kendra with a dozen screenshots attached. Messages between Julia and someone called Rico Art 206 negotiating the graffiti job. Venmo payments. Even a photo Julia had requested showing the finished work. Kendra, why are you telling me this? Because Julia asked me to lie for her. She wants me to post on social media about how worried I am about her, how you're being manipulative and controlling. She's trying to get all our friends to turn against you. Are they? Some of them, yeah. The ones who don't know the whole story. But Mason, Julia's not the person you married. I don't know when it happened, but she's become someone I don't recognize. Someone who would destroy her own husband just to make herself look like a victim. What do you want me to do with this information? Whatever you think is right. But, Mason, be careful. Julia's desperate, and desperate people do stupid things. After I hung up with Kendra, I forwarded all the screenshots to Lila and Detective Lopez. Then I sat in my living room, staring at the wedding photos Julia had insisted we hang on every wall, and tried to figure out when my wife had decided to destroy our marriage. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. You think you're smart, freezing her cards, but you have no idea what you're dealing with. This is just the beginning. I screenshot the text and added it to my evidence folder. Then I called Bryce. Dude, I heard about the graffiti. You okay? Bryce, I need a favor. You still have contacts from your police days? A few. What do you need? I need to find someone called Rico Art 206, and I need to have a conversation with him. Mason, what are you planning? I'm planning to get some answers, and maybe return the favor. Bryce found Rico in less than 24 hours. Turns out Rico Martinez was a 19-year-old art student at the University of Washington who supplemented his income by doing custom graffiti work for people willing to pay cash. He wasn't hard to track down. His Instagram was full of his work, including some that was definitely illegal. His real name is Ricardo Martinez, Bryce told me as we sat in his pickup truck outside a coffee shop near the university. He's got a couple of minor arrests for vandalism, but nothing serious. Kid's actually pretty talented. Talented enough to take $500 to trash my building. Yeah, about that. I may have implied that we had security footage of him doing it. Do we? No, but he doesn't know that. Rico showed up right on time, looking nervous and young. He was skinny with paint-stained fingers and the kind of carefully cultivated facial hair that screamed art student. He kept looking around like he expected police to jump out from behind parked cars. "You Rico?" I asked as he approached our table. "Depends who's asking. I'm Mason Reed. You spray-painted my building 2 nights ago." His face went pale. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Sure you do." I pulled out my phone and showed him the screenshots Kendra had sent. "Julia Reed paid you $500 to vandalize my building. I have the messages, the Venmo payments, everything. Look, man, I didn't know it was going to cause problems. She said it was like a prank or something." "A prank?" "Yeah, like she said her husband would think it was funny, like an inside joke or whatever." Bryce leaned forward. "Rico, you seem like a smart kid. Do you really think cheater and loser spray painted on someone's building is funny?" "I mean, when you put it like that, here's what's going to happen," I said. "You're going to call the police and confess to vandalizing my building. You're going to tell them exactly who paid you to do it and why. And then you're going to help me with a little project." "What kind of project?" "The kind that pays a lot better than $500. Rico looked back and forth between me and Bryce. "This isn't going to get me in more trouble, is it?" "Kid," Bryce said, "you're already in trouble. The question is whether you want to make it worse or better." 20 minutes later, we were sitting in Detective Lopez's office while Rico gave his statement. He had brought his phone, showing the messages from Julia, and he had printed out the Venmo payment confirmation. "So, Mrs. Reed hired you to vandalize her own husband's building?" Detective Lopez asked. "She said it was a joke. She said he'd think it was funny. And you believe that?" Rico squirmed in his chair. "She paid me $500. I needed the money." "Mr. Reed, do you want to press charges against Rico?" "No, he's a kid who made a stupid decision. But I want charges filed against my wife for filing a false police report and property damage." "False police report? She called you guys about domestic drama, right? Made it sound like I had enemies who were vandalizing my building. She created the vandalism herself." Detective Lopez made some notes. "We'll look into it. Rico, you're free to go, but don't leave town. And maybe find a new side hustle." After Rico left, Detective Lopez turned to me. "Mr. Reed, I have to ask, what's your endgame here? Your wife is in Spain, you've filed for divorce, and now you're pressing charges. What are you hoping to accomplish?" "I'm hoping to make it clear that actions have consequences. Julia thought she could humiliate me publicly and then play the victim when I fought back. I'm showing her that's not how this works." "And what happens when she comes home?" "That depends on what she does next." As if on cue, my phone buzzed with a text from Julia. "Mason, I'm coming home tomorrow. We need to talk. Please don't do anything else stupid." I showed the text to Detective Lopez. "Looks like we're about to find out." That evening, I was sitting in my apartment when someone knocked on my door. I looked through the peephole and saw 2 men in expensive suits. "Mason Reed?" "Yeah?" "We're with the State Department. We need to discuss your wife's situation in Spain." I opened the door but didn't invite them in. "What about it?" "Mr. Reed, your actions have created a diplomatic situation. Mrs. Reed is an American citizen who was stranded abroad due to your financial manipulations. The embassy in Madrid has had to intervene on her behalf. The embassy intervened because she was shacked up with one of their employees and needed help getting home. That's not how we see it. How do you see it? We see an American citizen who was abandoned by her husband in a foreign country without access to funds or means of returning home. That's a serious matter. She wasn't abandoned. She chose to go to Spain with her ex-boyfriend and chose not to tell me about it. I chose to stop funding her vacation. Mr. Reed, we strongly suggest you restore your wife's access to funds immediately." "Or what?" The 2 men looked at each other. "Or this situation could become much more complicated for you. Gentlemen, let me make something clear. My wife committed adultery and documented it on social media. She hired someone to vandalize my building and then lied to police about it. She's currently living with her ex-boyfriend in Madrid while claiming to be a victim. If the State Department wants to enable that behavior, that's your choice. But I'm not paying for it. Mr. Reed, you're making a mistake. The only mistake I made was trusting my wife, but I learned from my mistakes." After they left, I called Lila. They sent State Department guys to my apartment. Of course they did. Eric's calling in favors. Can they do anything to me? Not legally. But Mason, they can make your life difficult in other ways. Background checks for jobs, passport renewals, tax audits. These people have long memories. So what do you suggest? We document everything. Every contact, every threat, every attempt at intimidation, and we prepare for war because Julia and Eric just escalated this to a whole new level. Good, I said. I was getting bored with the current level. Julia's flight landed at SeaTac at 3:47 p.m. on a Thursday. I know because I was tracking it online while sitting in Lila's office, going over divorce papers. She's going to come straight to the apartment, Lila said. Are you ready for that conversation? I'm ready for a lot of things. Conversation might not be one of them. Mason, remember what we discussed. Don't let her provoke you into saying or doing anything stupid. Everything she says to you from now on is potentially going to be repeated in court. Got it. And if she brings Eric with her, then we'll have an even more interesting conversation. My phone buzzed with a text from Julia. Just landed, coming home. Please be there. We need to fix this. I screenshot the text and added it to my evidence folder, which was now up to about 40 screenshots and documents. An hour later, I was sitting in my living room when I heard Julia's key in the lock. She came through the door looking like she'd been through heck. Hair messy, makeup smudged, wearing the same clothes I'd seen her in on Instagram 3 days ago. Mason! Julia. She dropped her bags and just stood there for a moment, like she was waiting for me to run to her and apologize for everything. How was Spain? I asked. How was Spain? Mason, you stranded me in a foreign country with no money and no way to get home. How do you think Spain was? I think Spain was exactly what you wanted it to be until you realized there were consequences. Consequences for what? For taking a vacation with a friend? Julia, cut the crap. I've seen the photos. I've seen the hotel reservation. I know you and Eric shared a room, and I know you've been planning this for months. You don't know anything. I know you hired Rico Martinez to spray paint our building. I know you lied to the police about it. I know you've been telling people I'm toxic and controlling. Should I go on? Her face went white. How do you know about Rico? Because Rico told me, right before he told the police. You're being charged with vandalism and filing a false report, by the way. You can't be serious. Dead serious. Just like I was serious about filing for divorce. I pulled out the papers Lila had prepared and set them on the coffee table. You've been served. Julia stared at the papers like they were written in a foreign language. Mason, this is insane. We can work this out. Marriage counseling, therapy, whatever you want. What I want is a divorce. Because of Eric? Mason, nothing happened with Eric. Julia, you posted pictures of yourself in bed with him. We weren't in bed together. We were sitting on the bed talking. You were in your underwear. It was hot. You booked a couples massage. The spa was running a special. You registered at the hotel as Mr. and Mrs. Dalton. That stopped her cold. How could you possibly know that? Because Eric used his embassy credit card for incidentals, and embassy credit card statements are subject to Freedom of Information Act requests. Lila filed one yesterday. Julia sat down heavily on the couch. You had government records pulled? I had public records requested. There's a difference. Mason, please, I know how this looks, but I can explain everything. Then explain. Eric and we have history, okay? But it's not what you think. He's been helping me with a work project, and when he offered to take me to Spain to meet with some potential clients, it seemed like a great opportunity. What clients? Marketing firms in Madrid and Barcelona. Companies that might want to work with my agency. Julia, you work for a Seattle-based marketing firm that specializes in local businesses. What would you possibly have to offer companies in Spain? International expansion. Cross-cultural marketing strategies. B's. It's not BS. Then show me the meeting notes. Show me the business cards. Show me any evidence at all that you did any work while you were in Spain. She opened her mouth, then closed it. That's what I thought. Mason, even if I made a mistake, even if I handled this wrong, that doesn't mean our marriage has to be over. We can fix this. No, Julia, we can't. Because this isn't a mistake. This is a pattern. The lying, the manipulation, the social media drama, hiring someone to vandalize our building, this is who you are now. And I don't want to be married to who you are now. So that's it? 4 years of marriage and you're just going to throw it all away? I'm not throwing anything away. You already did that when you got on a plane to Spain with Eric. Julia stood up and started pacing around the living room. Fine. You want a divorce? You'll get a divorce. But don't think you're going to walk away from this with everything. I'm entitled to half of what we built together. What we built together? Julia, I've been paying all the bills for the last 2 years while you spent your salary on clothes and vacations and whatever else you wanted. The only thing we built together was debt. That's not true. It's completely true. I have the bank statements to prove it. You've been spying on me. I've been paying attention. There's a difference. Julia stopped pacing and looked at me with an expression I'd never seen before. Pure hatred. You think you're so smart, don't you? You think you've got everything figured out. But Mason, you have no idea what you're dealing with. Eric has connections. Important people who can make your life very difficult. Is that a threat? It's a reality. You embarrassed him. You embarrassed me. People like us don't just let that slide. People like you. People with power. People with influence. People who matter. Julia, you work in marketing. Eric stamps passports. You're not the Illuminati. We'll see about that. She grabbed her bags and headed for the door. Where are you going? Somewhere I don't have to look at your pathetic face. Julia, wait. She stopped with her hand on the doorknob. The State Department guys who came to see me yesterday? Tell Eric that if he sends any more government employees to intimidate me, I'm filing a complaint with his supervisor and the Inspector General's office. Using federal resources for personal vendettas is a felony. You're bluffing. Try me. She slammed the door so hard that one of our wedding photos fell off the wall and shattered on the floor. I swept up the glass and threw the photo away. Then I opened a beer and called Bryce. How'd it go? About as well as expected. She's pissed, she's threatening me, and she's probably going to do something stupid. What kind of stupid? The kind that's going to make this a lot more interesting. Mason, be careful. Cornered animals bite. So do uncornered ones, apparently. 3 days after Julia moved out, I came home to find my apartment had been broken into. Nothing was stolen, but everything had been searched. Drawers pulled out, papers scattered, my computer moved. Someone had been looking for something specific. I called the police, then I called Lila, then I called Bryce. They were looking for evidence, Lila said as we stood in my destroyed living room. Documents, financial records, anything they could use against you in the divorce. Did they find anything? Nothing important. I keep all the real evidence at my office. Detective Lopez finished taking photos and turned to me. Any idea who might have done this? I have some theories. Care to share them? My wife and her boyfriend are getting desperate. They thought they could intimidate me into backing down, but that's not working, so now they're trying to find ammunition to use against me. You think your wife broke into your own apartment? I think someone broke in on her behalf. Any proof of that? Not yet, but I'm working on it. That night, I stayed at Bryce's place while he installed security cameras in my apartment. Real ones this time, not the fake ones I'd had before. If they come back, we'll get them on video, he said. They'll come back. Julia's not done with me yet. I was right. 2 nights later, the motion sensors went off at 2:17 a.m. I watched on my phone as 2 figures picked the lock on my front door and entered my apartment. They moved like professionals, no flashlights, no unnecessary noise, straight to the places where people typically hide important documents. One of them was definitely Julia. I recognized her walk, her silhouette, the way she moved through our apartment like she owned it. The other figure was taller, broader, moving with military precision, Eric. They spent 20 minutes searching before they found what they were looking for. A folder I deliberately left in my desk drawer labeled Financial Records. Inside were fake bank statements showing large cash withdrawals and deposits, designed to make it look like I was hiding money. They took photos of everything with their phones before putting the folder back exactly where they'd found it. After they left, I called Detective Lopez. I've got them on video breaking into my apartment. Both of them? Both of them. Mr. Reed, you know this means your wife is going to be arrested, right? I know. And you're okay with that? Detective, 3 weeks ago I thought I had a marriage. Then I found out my wife was cheating on me with her ex-boyfriend and broadcasting it on social media. She hired someone to vandalize my building, lied to police about it, and now she's breaking into my apartment looking for evidence to use against me in divorce court. Yeah, I'm okay with her being arrested. What about Eric? What about him? He's a federal employee. Arresting him is going to cause complications. That's not my problem. The arrests happened the next morning. I wasn't there to see it, but Mrs. Park from 3B called me with a play-by-play. Mason, there are police cars everywhere. They just arrested Julia and some man I didn't recognize. Julia was screaming about how this was all a setup and you were trying to frame her. The man just looked angry, really angry. Thanks for letting me know, Mrs. Park. Mason, honey, I have to ask. What the heck is going on? Just some domestic drama, Mrs. Park. Nothing to worry about. An hour later, my phone rang. Unknown number. Mason, this is Eric. We need to talk. I thought you were in jail. I posted bail. So did Julia. But Mason, you've made a serious mistake here. Have I? You set us up. That folder with the fake financial documents, you wanted us to find it. I have no idea what you're talking about, Eric. Don't play dumb. You knew we'd come back, so you planted fake evidence and filmed us taking it. That's entrapment. That's strategy. It's also going to backfire on you in ways you can't imagine. Is that another threat? It's a promise. You think you're clever, but you have no idea who you're dealing with. I have friends in places you've never heard of, and they don't like it when civilians interfere with federal employees. Eric, let me explain something to you. I don't care who your friends are. I don't care what connections you have. I don't care if you know the president personally. You broke into my apartment, you committed a felony, and you got caught. Everything else is just noise. We'll see about that. Yeah, we will. He hung up, and I immediately called Lila. They took the bait. Both of them? Both of them. Clear video of them breaking in, searching the apartment, and photographing fake documents. Mason, you beautiful genius. They just handed us everything we need to destroy them in divorce court. What happens now? Now we wait for them to make their next mistake. Because they will. People this arrogant always do. I didn't have to wait long. That afternoon, I got a call from my boss at work. Mason, we need to talk. My office now. I walked into his office to find him sitting behind his desk with a very serious expression and two men in suits standing behind him. Mason, these gentlemen are from the FBI. They have some questions about your recent activities. What kind of activities? The kind that involve interfering with federal employees and potentially compromising national security. I looked at the two FBI agents. Gentlemen, I assume this is about Eric Dalton? Mr. Reed, we understand you've been harassing a State Department employee and his associates. I've been documenting my wife's affair with a State Department employee. There's a difference. You filed FOIA requests for classified information. I've filed FOIA requests for credit card statements. If Eric's credit card statements are classified, that's a problem with Eric, not with me. You've entrapped federal employees into committing crimes. I've documented federal employees committing crimes. Again, there's a difference. The agents looked at each other, then back at me. Mr. Reed, we strongly suggest you cease all contact with Mr. Dalton and resolve your domestic issues through proper legal channels. Gentlemen, I've been trying to resolve my domestic issues through proper legal channels. But when federal employees break into my apartment, I tend to call the police. The break-in charges will be dropped. Will they? In the interest of national security, yes. And if I don't agree to that, then this situation becomes much more complicated for everyone involved. I looked at my boss, who was clearly uncomfortable with the entire conversation. Gentlemen, let me make something clear. I'm not going to be intimidated by Eric Dalton, the State Department, or the FBI. My wife cheated on me, documented it on social media, and then broke into my apartment looking for evidence to use against me. If Eric wants to use his government connections to help her, that's his choice. But I'm not backing down. Mr. Reed, you're making a mistake. The only mistake I made was underestimating how far Eric would go to protect his girlfriend. But I learned from my mistakes. After they left, my boss looked at me with a mixture of admiration and concern. Mason, what the heck have you gotten yourself into? A divorce, apparently. But don't worry, it's almost over. How can you be sure? Because Eric just made the biggest mistake of his life. He involved the FBI in a domestic dispute. His supervisors are going to love that. I was right. By the end of the day, I had a call from Detective Lopez. Mr. Reed, the break-in charges against your wife and Mr. Dalton are being dropped. I heard. But there's something else you should know. The State Department's Inspector General wants to talk to you. About what? About whether Mr. Dalton has been using government resources for personal matters? When? Tomorrow morning. And Mr. Reed, bring everything you've got.